What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
The hum we are going to talk about today is a hum to all hums. It's not the whistling and squeaking under the hood that we've already written about. This is a different kind of sound, which is not from under the hood, but somewhere below, on the side, or in general it is unclear where, but almost always on the move. So, sound 1 is the simplest. Elementary simple. The most common cause of the rumble is wear or destruction of the hub bearing. To distinguish this rumble from others is very simple. Initially it occurs only at a certain speed of a fairly narrow range, for example, 40 to 60 km/h or 90-110. It is easy to be sure that the bearing is humming. You just need to check whether the sound does not change in turns. If it changes, disappears in one direction and becomes louder in the opposite direction, it is definitely a hub bearing. As a rule, the volume of the rumble does not depend on the degree of pressure on the gas pedal, but on the speed, very much. In general, everything is very simple and familiar to many people. The second quite common cause of hum is the howling of the gearbox. We are talking about a manual gearbox. It is much rarer than bearing wear. After all, the gearbox is not a consumable item, although some manufacturers do not know this for some reason. In the box, the primary shaft bearing wears out the fastest, and it is not difficult to be sure of this malfunction accurately enough. It is necessary first to listen to whether the pitch of the hum tone does not change when gaining speed in one of the gears. If it does, then after speeding up, you need to engage neutral gear and drive a little rolling, just in case. I warn you, it is dangerous. If there is no rumble in neutral, then welcome to service. In a manual transmission, the rumble can appear due to a lost oil level. Most often it will first appear in the higher gears, 5th or 6th, so if the rumble is only in these gears and when switching to lower gears it disappears, it will not be unreasonable to check the oil level. Or at least make sure that the box does not leak oil. Of course, the box may hum for other reasons, for example, if the gears are already badly worn, but here it is difficult to diagnose by ear. And again, the transmission. By and large, the transmission has the most parts that can hum on the move. And since they are connected quite rigidly and can transmit vibrations and sounds to the body, it can be difficult to localize transmission hum. However, let's try. Growing rumble during acceleration on a rear-wheel drive car may indicate a lack of oil in the rear gearbox or its wear. And if you are lucky, then the drive shaft cross member and its suspension bearing can also hum. But these situations are quite rare. Unfortunately, we have almost no honest rear-wheel drive cars left, so let's return to the front drive. A hum similar to the howl of a hub bearing is produced by another, the outboard drive bearing. Not all cars have it, but if they do, and the hub bearings are normal, it makes sense to check it. Usually the tone of this sound is higher than the rumble of the hub bearing, and it is more difficult to diagnose. However, you can try. The height of the sound often changes depending on the load on the drive, so it is necessary to play with the gas pedal. If the sound somehow changes with the position of the gas pedal, the probability of wear of the suspension bearing is quite high. In addition, its wear is often accompanied by vibration on the steering wheel or its runout, which also varies with acceleration. Another source of rumbling at speed is the ball joint. And more often it is the inner ball joint, aka tripod. In most cases the inner joint is a tripod that rumbles. In contrast to the external ball joint, the internal one is not able to crack so brightly in turns by virtue of a small angle of change in the position of the shaft relative to the box, and it is not always possible to calculate it by a sharp acceleration when the steering wheel is turned out. Therefore, it is more difficult to check it, and it is better to do it on a hoist. If it seems incredibly difficult, you can try to move forward and then backward at low throttle. If there is a noticeable click when you start driving, the ball joint is most likely defective. And of course, it will almost always be defective if it has a torn dust cover. However, it is quite difficult to see the dust cover of the inner ball joint without a hoist or at least an inspection pit. And now a moment of sad information for owners of cars with automatic transmission. The hum of a classic torque converter box usually comes from the torque converter, bagel. However, other symptoms of its malfunction can often appear. For example, the car may accelerate unevenly or jerk when braking the engine. Of course, it is difficult to diagnose the automatic transmission on your own, especially by ear, but if there are significant changes in the behavior of the car during acceleration and braking, especially in the city, and somewhere in the legs something hums, there is a good chance to get to the repair of the automatic transmission. This is especially true for those whose cars like to abuse lockup in all gears, starting from the first. There the pads wear out faster, contaminating the oil quite intensively. And if this oil is not changed, the bagel will die and then the rest of the box. But let's not talk about sad things. The variator hums much more often than the classic automatic transmission. Its rumble is often called trolleybus rumble. The sound when gaining speed is really similar to the sound of a trolleybus accelerating. The appearance of such a rumble on a car with a variator is very sad. And, most likely, expensive. Therefore, it is better not to kill the cones, but to do a cheaper repair, for example, replacing the belt or chain, which, perhaps, can still help to save the cones themselves. What else? Well, what if it's not the transmission? What else could be the source of the hum? The most likely cause, if the transmission is in good working order, is the exhaust system. Its rumble is a bit similar to the rumble of a hub bearing, but, unlike the latter, the exhaust does not rumble at a certain speed, but at certain engine speeds. If you accelerate and let off the gas, the bearing will howl the same way, and the exhaust system should be silent. We've already told you what can make a voice in it and we won't repeat ourselves. Spoiler, most likely a corrugator or resonator. This sound, of course, is not as dangerous as the howling of a hub bearing, but it can be very annoying. By the way, there are quite a few reasons for humming that may not bother you. For example, on the highway, when the wind direction changes, something may also hum. Spoilers, windshield wipers, even wiper blades. Of course, it is not dangerous and you should not be afraid of it. The main thing to remember is that side wind gusts that make the car hum are strong gusts, and you should not fly on the highway for all the dough. Side winds, especially gusty and on a slippery road, are dangerous. It is better not to take risks. We have talked about what is buzzing under the hood: power steering pump, air conditioner, compressor, bearings, rollers and everything else that rotates. Usually you can't hear these sounds on the highway. But some engine hum should make you think. For example, the diaphragm of the crankcase gas ventilation system valve may be humming strongly. Here it is necessary to understand why. Okay, if the diaphragm itself has simply worn out and torn, although this is also bad, but it is forgivable for new cars. The reason can be much more serious, from the holy VKG pipes to the worn piston and the increase in pressure of crankcase gases connected with this wear. One last thing, often the cause of the rumble is simple, but not obvious. For example, the rumble may appear after rewrapping tires. If the rumble is stronger than usual, check the balance, but first make sure that the tire fitter has not made a mistake and has not mixed up the tires in places, putting them against the direction of rolling. You never know, things can happen. In conclusion, the rumble in your car can stem from a variety of sources, from the engine to the exhaust system, and even the tires. Understanding these sounds not only helps in diagnosing potential issues but also enhances your overall driving experience. By staying attentive to the noises your vehicle makes, you can ensure a smoother ride and maintain the longevity of your car. So, the next time you hear that rumble, remember that it's not just noise, it's your car communicating with you. Thank you for watching, and safe travels on the road ahead.